You sit down, you're like, man, I've got writer's block, just write. And maybe it's going to be trash, but you will have practiced. And again, coming back to Jerry Seinfeld, he said every day he'd have a streak where he would just focus on, let me just write some stand-up. Most of it's not going to make it to an actual live show, but because I'm continuing to flex this muscle, I'll get better and better and better, and you start to develop this type of habit. I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of Crisp, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. Crisp started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, Head of Coaching Strategy at Crisp, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on how to break destructive patterns that sabotage your leadership while your brain stays stuck in survival mode even after you've achieved success, and how to develop true strategic thinking as a firm owner.
So maybe it starts with just writing everything out and not even having some sort of outcome in mind of saying, well, I need to solve this $100 million problem today, and then in this hour that I have sandwiched between disgruntled clients and disgruntled team members.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. All right, we have an exciting one today. Can't wait for this AMMA, Michael.
I can't wait either. I was just saying it's been a while, or it feels like it's been a while since we've done one of these, even though it's probably been about a week, maybe a week and a half. So coming off a great weekend, and
we're going to talk about some addictions.
Addiction, yes. Not proud of it, but maybe there's somebody who's listening who can relate to this addiction.
Probably a lot of people.
Phone addiction.
Yeah.
In just constantly having this phone on you and constantly checking, having messages come in, notifications, pop-ups, just
doom scrolling. Like, just if you're without the phone, feeling like you're naked.
Is something wrong? Like that sort of thing. But one of the things I wanted to do was to break said addiction cold turkey. And that's what we did this weekend. And it was great. This might actually surprise a lot of people, because if you go on your phone, you can check screen time on the phone. You just flip down, type in screen time. It will take you there and it shows you about how much time you spend on your phone a day on average, right? On a per week average. I know a lot of people have me beat. So this is not like a competition, and these might be some rookie numbers, but I was around, I think 5.5, maybe 6 hours a day. And I was not proud of those numbers. So we're coming off this weekend where I got it down to 1.5 hours. And then even then, that's technically a bit of a exaggeration, because, we worked out.
Yeah.
And in the Whoop app, we got the heart rate monitor, and that was 1 hour.
Yeah.
And so you have that open in order to, do the heart rate tracking. So really it was about 30 minutes.
It's unbelievable.
On Saturday, 30 minutes on Sunday of screen time, and I didn't miss it.
They said it couldn't be done.
They said it. That's why I did it. They said it couldn't be done. They're like, oh man,
they being me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you got me one of those like bricks.
Yeah.
That you can put on your phone as well, and
it locks you out of.
Yeah, it like physically locks you out, and I was like, I don't need that thing. Like, we didn't even take it out of the box. I was like, I have no problem. Just put the phone down and didn't pick it up. That was it.
There were a few weeks in between the break purchase and then your decision.
Correct. I was contemplating. Yes. I was like, look, I don't want to be beholden to this little magnetic device, right? What is it? Can you have discipline to be able to control when I use the phone and don't use the phone? And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with certain things in the phone, like check your calendar. Nothing wrong with that. There could also be check your finances.
Yeah.
It's the doom scrolling. It's to the point where, and we see it with some people we know.
Yes.
Right? People that can't even sit and watch a show
without scrolling
on their phone. And
one might say that was actually you a few weeks ago.
This was, right?
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing, because then you actually start to feel productive when you're watching shows and movies and not checking your phone, which is insane. What were the outcomes of this? Well, I'll tell you, I feel like I took like a mini sabbatical. I read, almost finished this entire book, that I started reading over the weekend. We spent a lot of time with the kids and just being constantly present. Like, I think one of them at one point brought me the phone because she felt like something was wrong. I was like, I don't need that. And there's a great app that I didn't use over the weekend, but I've started to use now. I think it was actually Hannah who recommended this, but it's called Opal, Opal. And it's one of those apps where like during the workday, it can lock you out of whatever apps you want, like social apps or anything that you just want to block. And it's gamified and everything. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. So I installed that earlier this week, and now I'm trying to gamify, trying to bring down screen time even more.
Yeah.
And try to see if we can go from 1 week to the next week to the next week to the next week, because it's probably, it's good for your brain.
It is. It is.
To be present where you are. And I think phones definitely have some utility for sure in terms of like phone calls and maybe even accessing certain information, but to be always on, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not so great.
That's why I've dipped off social a few times this year, just off a month or two, and it just, why? Besides the fact that, of course, you got a business running on social, but that's a different,
There is that.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a bit tricky. Like if we didn't have a social presence for the business that I want to be able to see and monitor, I would delete all these apps.
Yeah.
100%. Otherwise there's absolutely really no utility. Right? Yeah. It's not like, hey, I want to check out how my friends are doing. Said nobody ever. Right? But if you guys want to bring down your screen time, or you have some great strategies around it, text us 404-531-7691. I'd love to know what you're doing if you have recovered from this phone addiction.
Yes.
And if you got it real bad, check out that app, Opal. We're not affiliated with them in any way, but I just started with it. It's great.
Yeah.
And this is the AMMA, where you guys submit questions and we answer them here on the show. And I said earlier, but if you do have a question that you want us to answer, it could be anything about business, culture, people, leadership, marketing, etc. Text us at 404-531-7691. And if you're tuning in for the first time, we have a couple different types of episodes. We've got the traditional interview style episodes where we bring on a guest to ask them a bunch of questions, also known as a podcast. Then we've got the encore editions. We bring back some of the most popular episodes, and these are the AMMAs where you guys submit the questions and we answer them here on the show. So let's get to the questions.
All right.
I'm curious what we got this week.
Okay, so question number 1. I'm reaching out because I'm struggling with constant disappointment in my team, and I think it's starting to affect my leadership and how I feel about this business. I feel like I'm constantly being let down, and it's reaching a point of anger in how I interact with my employees. I know logically this isn't productive, but I can't seem to control my emotional reaction when people let me down. I feel like it's not as simple as firing everyone, because I also know I can't do this alone, but it's making coming to the office so damn difficult.
Is there a question here?
No, there's really not. I think it's just an open-ended here that just help.
Okay. Help.
Help.
Okay. Okay, so you're constantly disappointed.
Yeah.
There's a saying that unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments, in the sense that you're disappointed because you have an expectation and it doesn't match up with what reality is. So you expect something from someone, and whatever they deliver to you doesn't align with what that expectation was. So you were disappointed, but did you communicate that expectation to them? Do they know what your expectation is? Sometimes seen as I don't like saying difficult conversations, but perhaps it's more like crucial conversations, so that somebody is clear as to what the expectations are, whether they are meeting those expectations or not. And then if you have to be disappointed, and we've all been there, I've been there too, don't be disappointed at them. Be disappointed at yourself. You hired them, and you either coached them or you didn't coach them, either developed them, didn't help develop them, provided clear expectations, didn't provide clear expectations, or did all those things and continue to tolerate them and then wonder why you continue to be disappointed. So if you want to be disappointed at someone, I feel like the most productive person to be disappointed at is really you, the leader. I'll tell you what, people, sometimes will say to me, hey, are you disappointed? I'm like, yeah, I'm disappointed in myself for tolerating this situation and getting to this point, right? Because it's my fault.
Yeah.
Like 100%. It 100% is my fault. Always, all the time. If there's ever anything wrong, it is due to me, right? it was a decision that was either made or not made, or it was a wrong decision at some point, maybe in the past, right? That we're paying the price for today. Could have been hired the wrong person. Could have been failed to have a certain conversation, didn't provide clarity, whatever that was. It's my fault.
Yeah.
And I say that's the most productive type of mentality that you can really have, because when everything is your fault, well, then guess what? You have the power to choose, and you have the power to be able to make different choices and different decisions. Because if it's somebody else's fault, you can't control somebody else, well then, what a tough place to be. But if it's your fault and you have free will and you have the ability to make different choices and different decisions, then guess what? Now you can make things better. So coming back to just the fact that unspoken expectations are really premeditated resentments. And chances are the reason why you're disappointed and the reason why you may even begin to resent your team is because you never had that conversation and outline clearly what the expectations are, and then what it looks like when those are met and what it looks like when those are not met. Because then you provide somebody with clarity. And then you can get to a point where if the expectations aren't met, you already had the conversation as to what would happen.
Right.
And now it doesn't need to be weird. I think was it John Maxwell who said this? He was on the podcast and he said that, one of the best things you can do at the start of when you're working with somebody, when you hire somebody, is tell them that, look, one day, hopefully far from today, we're going to have a difficult conversation because you will not have met the certain expectations that we have set. And when that happens, we may be in a situation where we have to part ways. And I just want to have this conversation now so it's not difficult later. That when we are not aligned, like let's say, or rather let me flip it, when you're aligned on the expectations and those expectations aren't met, this is what that looks like, so that it's not a surprise to anyone. And he's like, let's just get out of the way early.
Yeah.
Rather than somebody later being surprised. I think it's one of the worst things you can do to someone.
It is.
It's when they're surprised they're having a performance conversation. What? The reason why they're surprised is because they feel like they're doing a good job. And why would they feel they're doing a good job and you feel the exact opposite? It's because there's unspoken expectations.
Yeah. No one should ever be surprised when they get terminated. Like, ever.
I don't think people should be surprised when they have a performance conversation.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
And if they are surprised, that's not their fault. It's your fault.
Yeah.
And it's your failure as a leader for failing to communicate what the expectations and standards are.
Yeah. Could not agree more. All right. Question number 2. Michael, I've heard you talk about dedicated thinking time before, and I've realized that I need to do this or I'll never grow. My problem is, even if I put aside the time, I'm not sure I'm making the best use of that time or if I'm really thinking strategically. Most of my day is dealing with the day-to-day, handling clients, managing people, putting out fires. When I do have time to think big picture, I can't help but immediately jump to my task list. How do you develop your ability to think strategically when you're used to operating tactically?
So a couple of things here. When we talked about having dedicated think time, it's time to be able to think like this person is referencing about the future, or to be able to work through some sort of strategy problem, or just really anything that is something you need to work through. So a couple things here. Number one, I think the absolute worst time to have scheduled think time is in the middle of the day. That would be akin to scheduling a workout for 6 p.m. and then being surprised that by the time 6 p.m. rolls around, you're exhausted or you don't feel like going to the gym.
Yeah.
Because the whole day is worn on you and you're like, man, it's 6 o'clock. Like, this is the last thing I want to do. It's been such a hard day. So the best time to schedule a workout is at 5 a.m. before any of that has happened. So, and the same goes for think time. In my experience, the best time to do it is before the day gets going. Let's say it's 5 a.m.
Fresh
6
brain.
a.m.
Yes.
Yeah. Like there's no distractions at that point. Or if you're in a position where you can free up the entire day. So let's say you have that entire Friday to where, the challenge is the context switching and the task switching. I mean, imagine you have like back-to-back calls and you're talking to several clients on cases and it's just a lot of frustrating conversations. Then you block out a couple hours of think time. And right after that, you have to have a performance conversation with somebody on your team, right? Are you going to even be in a good headspace you're just going to feel all jammed up? I think that the timing is very, very important. Yeah, it's like no different than how Jerry Seinfeld developed his capability to as a comic. And it's no different than how Robert Greene developed his capability as a writer. You do it, it's like a muscle. You sit down and you think and you probably aren't very good at it the first time you do it. And when I'm journaling, sometimes I'm just writing things down and the ideas are flowing out. It doesn't even make any sense initially, right? And then the ideas start to form. But then as you do this time and time again, I mean, Jesse Cole said the same thing. You know, he said, how do you get, you know, from the Savannah Bananas, how do we develop, you know, every show has new ideas and new things that they do. And they do a lot of these different experiences. So it's like, how do you keep things fresh? And he's like, well, I think he writes down like 10, 20 ideas every single day. You start to work on that muscle, that creative muscle. And he's like, look, a lot of them are no good, but the practice of doing it every single day strengthens that. And it's the same way where if you're a writer, you sit down, you're like, man, I've got writer's block, just write. And maybe it's going to be trash, but you will have practiced. And again, coming back to Jerry Seinfeld, he said like every day he'd have a streak where he would just focus on like, let me just write some stand-up. Most of it's not going to make it to an actual live show, but because I'm continuing to flex this muscle, I'll get better and better and better. And you start to develop this type of habit. So that's where I would say you think strategically, you know, just sit down one day and like all the amazing ideas start to flow. No. The first time you sit down, you're thinking, what am I doing? Just like meditation. You're like, I don't know. Like I'm not supposed to have these thoughts in my brain, but I'm supposed to sit here and focus on the breath and be still, but I'm all stressed out, right? That's why it's like the practice of meditation. Yes, that's what happens the first time, probably the second time, the third time. But as you start practicing this more and more and more, you start to get, in quotes, better at it. If the starting point was that you were complete, you know, clarity, I mean, that'd be amazing. But more often than not, if it's your first time sitting down and having dedicated think time, imagine all the junk you have in your head. So maybe it starts with just writing everything out and not even having some sort of outcome in mind of saying, well, I need to solve this $100 million problem today. And then in this hour that I have sandwiched between disgruntled clients and disgruntled team members. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. And I think also, I mean, take it back to the beginning of our conversation, remove distractions, just remove them. If you're tactically working through a to-do list, get the to-do list out of your face.
Get it out of there. Well, and you know what? I'll tell you, if you want to for sure have some dedicated think time, just get on an airplane, book a flight across the country, don't get the Wi-Fi, and don't even bring your laptop, and just bring a journal, and you got nowhere to go. But if you don't want to do that, then just find a room with no windows and turn off all your electronics and just do this first thing. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to execute on some amazing routine to get yourself ready. Just sit down and start doing it.
All right. And to wrap us out today with question number 3, I'm sure you can relate to this knowing your story, but I finally reached a level of success where I feel like I'm no longer surviving. My practice and team have grown from just me to now over 40 people, but I'm realizing my mental approach still seems to be stuck in survival mode from when I was starting out. Sometimes I catch myself overanalyzing or avoiding risk that I couldn't take 5 years ago, but certainly can today. I don't want to limit the growth of my firm, but I also don't want to lose the survival mindset that got me here. What would you do?
Well, this is an interesting one because your instincts and your mentality of survivalism has gotten you to where you are today, but now you're no longer having to be in survival mode, and yet that fight or flight has stayed with you. So you still are as perhaps survival instincts and as discerning as you've been, you're still that way today, but not everything is a crisis anymore. And this one's tough. I mean, what would I do? I don't know. I mean, look, I've known people that have gone through years of therapy to try to overcome this. Like people who grew up poor, that poor mentality. I mean, I knew somebody who was, let's say he was running, I think, a $40 million business, grew up in a trailer park. And even when that business was $40 million, he would carry around like, I think $1,000 of cash in his pocket because he always felt poor. And this helped him not feel poor, even though like he was like decades apart from that, right? And by the way, he didn't pass away with anything to do with this. It was during the pandemic, and it wasn't even from the pandemic. He died of cancer. Rest in peace.
Yes.
But I digress. The point is that it's difficult to leave our past selves behind.
Yeah.
But once you fulfilled certain needs on this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You got like food and shelter, et cetera. How do you actually channel this in a positive way? Because you don't want to go in the complete opposite direction, right? In terms of overcorrecting and just becoming one of these YOLO type people that's just blowing money left and right and taking crazy risks left and right and then just goes broke again.
Right.
And that's what you're really, I think your instincts are trying to shield you against. But at the same time, a lot of, if you've come up from this, survival mentality, it can also prevent you from achieving a lot of future growth as well.
Yeah.
Because you can be a bit too risk averse. So my perspective on this, and again, outside of the psychological rewiring, which you probably still have to go through, right? Because this is what I'm about to say is easy said, simple but not easy, is really just, in my experience, you got to make sure home base is taken care of. So that includes like your family, your team, your business. Like make sure that those from the standpoint of payroll is able to be met, we've got enough cash in the accounts, like we're in a good place, and then now you're playing with house money. In survival mode, it's everything's on you.
Yeah.
Every single dollar is your dollar, right? And if something doesn't work out, you feel the pain of that immediately. So I think now it shifts to more so focusing on calculated risks. So I will never make an investment or place a bet that threatens the livelihood of our team or our family or so on, right? Again, we're playing with house money. We're not even playing with our money. It's Chris money at this point, right? Why would I do something that would threaten our ability to be able to like hit payroll, or would threaten the ability of us to be able to like take care of our kids? Or it just wouldn't make sense. But you can still take risks and things that, may or may not work out, right? In terms of investments in growth, investments in additional infrastructure, those sort of things. But it's less about making a decision that, hey, if this doesn't pan out, we're going to start over from ground zero.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're building. So again, I relate it back to like house money. I'm not much of it's funny. Like if we ever go to Vegas, I walk right past the tables.
You never gamble?
There's nothing there for me.
No.
It's not even exciting.
Yeah.
Right? Because we get to do this every day in the business.
Yes.
But I think that if I were to gamble, and I think back, like, what was it? I did some of that like sports betting.
Oh yeah.
I went up $1,000 on $100, and then I was like, you know what? I will never let this thing go down to like $100 because I'm just playing with house money.
Yeah.
That's it. And it was just fun.
Yeah.
Right? And then it got boring.
Right.
Right. Because what's $1,000, in like a little betting when you're investing over, 6 figures a day in your own business.
Correct.
So, and the amount that it would take to actually feel something would be completely irresponsible. So it just doesn't make sense. But again, I would just say if you're in survival mode, don't neglect those instincts. They probably make you sharp, right? They've gotten you to where you are today, but also recognize that if now you're past that and you've got nest egg in place, meaning your team's taken care of, clients taken care of, families taken care of, etc. Now you can play with some house money and you can start making some other bets and making some investments in scaling the firm. But now you know that if it doesn't work out, you're not wiped out. Like I don't think you should ever do anything or make any decision that if it doesn't go your way, could wipe you out. The upside should be there for sure, but the downside should never be so great that it would cause you significant stress or pain or keep you up at night. Like I don't think it's ever worth doing that. To each their own, right? I mean, there's the kind of the saying, no risk, no reward. But I think it's a good hedge when you've been in survival mode for so long of realizing that, hey, we're going to leverage all the instincts that have helped. But at the same time, we're not going to use this to be so risk averse that we don't move forward, because I think this is what keeps people stuck.
Yeah.
They're so averse to taking on any risk because they're like, I don't want to be poor again, right? I get it. But as a result, they never have the opportunity to be able to scale their impact because they got to a place and now they're not even comfortable. They're like stressed, but they're afraid to make a move because before they had nothing to lose. Now they have something to lose and they're in this,
it's like paralyzed.
They're paralyzed. Yeah. They're in limbo.
Yeah.
So, but the other answer is just go get therapy. You could do that too.
Well, that was an easy answer. All right, then.
Start with that.
Yeah, we've been done. So we'll see you next time.
All right, until next time.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.